The night sky burned as warships descended, and in the chaos of battle an alien warrior cried for mercy. Only one human stayed behind, a choice that would change everything. This is a tale of betrayal, loyalty, and sacrifice where enemies become brothers and the fate of worlds hangs in the balance. Welcome to Earthborn Valor. If you believe in courage, sacrifice, and stories that challenge the limits of humanity, then this is your place. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to join us on more epic journeys. Your support helps keep these stories alive, and together, we rise beyond limits. The sky was on fire. Red beams of alien weapons cut through the night, burning the city into ruins. Humans ran in every direction, their screams lost under the thunder of explosions. Buildings fell like paper towers and the streets cracked open. It was not a battle, it was a massacre. No one saw it coming. Only hours ago, the city had been alive with laughter and lights. Children had played in the park. Couples had walked the streets. Now everything was smoke and dust. The war had arrived without warning. The alien ships hung above like dark shadows, their engines roaring like monsters from another world. Their warriors marched with glowing armor, eyes shining like cold stars. They showed no mercy. Anyone who stood in their path was cut down instantly. But among the chaos, there was one figure who did not run. A human soldier stood in the middle of the burning street, holding his weapon tightly even though his hands were shaking. His name was Daniel Hayes. He was not the strongest soldier, not the bravest, but something inside him refused to let go. He watched as an alien warrior crashed through the smoke, towering over him. The alien's blade dripped with human blood, its voice a low growl that shook the ground. The warrior's armor gleamed in the firelight, and his eyes locked on Daniel like a predator studying prey. Daniel aimed his rifle. His breath was heavy. His heart screamed at him to run, but his legs would not move. The alien charged forward with a roar, swinging his weapon down with deadly force. The clash was sudden. Sparks flew as metal struck metal. Daniel barely blocked the strike, his arms shaking from the impact. He pushed back with all his strength, but the alien was stronger, faster, unstoppable. The street cracked under their feet as the fight dragged on. Then something happened that Daniel did not expect. The alien stopped. His blade hovered inches from Daniel's throat, and his voice trembled. His glowing eyes dimmed. I do not want this, the alien said. His voice breaking like thunder turned to rain. Daniel froze. He had never heard an alien speak like this. Never had they shown weakness. Never had they spoken of mercy. But this warrior was crying. His voice shook with pain, his hands trembled, and his armor seemed heavier than before. I was forced to come here, the alien whispered, his blade falling to the ground. I was told humans were monsters. But now I see only fear. I see families. I see children. Why must they die? The warrior dropped to his knees, his head bowed. In the middle of the battlefield, with fire and blood all around, an alien warrior cried for mercy. Daniel's breath caught in his throat. He looked around. Soldiers, civilians, everyone else had fled. He was the only human left standing there. His rifle pointed at the alien, but his finger hesitated on the trigger. He should shoot. Every order, every instinct screamed at him to finish the enemy. Yet something stronger held him back. In that trembling voice, in those words of regret, Daniel heard the truth. This warrior was not like the others, but mercy came with danger. The alien army would not forgive betrayal. The human army would never accept hesitation. By sparing this warrior, Daniel risked everything. His life, his duty, his people's trust, and yet he stayed. The fire raged. The city crumbled. The alien warrior knelt before him, waiting for judgment. Daniel's finger loosened from the trigger and his weapon lowered slowly. Stand up, Daniel said, his voice quiet but firm. The alien looked at him, eyes filled with confusion and tears. Why? The alien whispered. Daniel stepped closer, his heart pounding. Because I see something in you, something they don't. Maybe you're not here to destroy us. Maybe you're here to change everything. For the first time, the alien's lips curved into something close to a smile, though his face was still wet with tears. But in that moment of fragile peace, shadows moved on the rooftops. More alien warriors appeared, their eyes burning with rage. They had seen what happened, and they would not forgive. The night grew darker. Daniel knew the choice he had made would not only decide his fate, it would shape the future of humans and aliens alike. The night burned with firelight as Daniel and the alien warrior stood face to face. The silence between them was fragile, almost sacred, but it shattered the moment shadows leapt across the rooftops. More alien soldiers appeared, their glowing eyes fixed on the scene below. They had seen everything. Daniel felt the weight of their gaze. He knew what it meant. Mercy was not allowed here. Compassion was weakness, and weakness was punished. The alien warrior, still kneeling, trembled as his brothers descended from the smoke. One of them roared, his voice like steel breaking. "Traitor!" The sound echoed across the ruined street. Other aliens closed in, their weapons glowing with deadly energy. Daniel raised his rifle instinctively, but he knew he could not fight them all. His chest tightened with dread. The kneeling alien warrior, his eyes still wet, looked up at Daniel with desperation. His lips barely moved, but Daniel understood the silent plea. "Do not leave me." Daniel hesitated only for a second before stepping in front of him. It was madness. He was a human soldier standing alone against an alien squad, defending the very enemy he was trained to kill. Yet something deeper guided him now, something stronger than orders or fear. The alien commander stepped forward. His armor was darker, heavier, his voice sharp like thunder. "You shame us, Kor. You kneel before prey. You cry before your kill. You dishonor the blood oath of our kind." Daniel glanced down. So his name was Kor. The warrior who begged for mercy was no nameless alien anymore. He had a name, a soul, a story. "I will not fight for lies," Kor said, his voice shaking yet steady. "They told us humans were beasts, but I have seen the truth. They bleed, they cry, they protect their young. They are not monsters. We are." Gasps broke out among the aliens. Their glowing eyes narrowed with fury. The commander's weapon hissed to life, its blade bright like fire. "Then you are no brother of ours." He raised his weapon to strike, but Daniel's rifle cracked first. The shot ripped through the smoke, grazing the commander's armor and forcing him back. The squad turned in unison, their attention now fixed on the human. Daniel's breath shook. His finger tightened on the trigger. He knew the truth. He could never kill them all. Yet in that moment, his defiance was louder than his fear. Kor pushed himself to his feet and stepped beside Daniel. "If you fall, I fall with you," the commander growled, rage twisting his features. "You would betray your blood for these creatures?" Kor's voice rang clear. "I betray nothing. I choose what is right." The silence that followed was heavy. For the first time, Daniel realized something terrifying. This was not just a war of armies. This was a war of loyalty, of truth versus deception. And here, on this ruined street, a silent betrayal had begun. The aliens advanced, weapons raised. Daniel fired again, the blast lighting the street. Kor blocked a strike with his blade, sparks flying. They fought back to back, a human and an alien moving as one. The air was filled with the clash of steel and the hiss of plasma, but the enemy was too many. Daniel's rifle overheated, the metal searing his hands. Kor staggered under a heavy blow, blood dripping from a cut across his chest. Their breaths grew heavy, their strength fading. The commander stepped forward once more, his blade aimed at Daniel's heart. But just before he struck, Kor roared and lunged. His blade met the commander's in a furious clash. Sparks showered the ground as the two warriors locked in combat. Daniel stumbled back, his vision blurred from smoke. He wanted to help, but his weapon was useless now. All he could do was watch. Kor fought with every ounce of his being, his strikes fierce yet desperate. "You cannot run from your blood, Kor," the commander spat. "I can choose my soul," Kor cried, his blade pressing harder. The commander's strength was overwhelming. With one brutal strike, he knocked Kor to the ground. His blade lifted high for the final blow. Daniel moved before he could think. He grabbed a broken metal pipe from the rubble and charged. With a desperate yell, he drove it into the commander's side. The alien staggered, roaring in pain. Kor seized the moment. With one last surge of strength, he rose and struck. His blade pierced the commander's chest, the glow in his eyes fading as he collapsed to the ground. Silence fell. The other aliens froze, staring in shock. Their leader lay dead at their feet. For a moment, none dared move. Then, with snarls of rage, they vanished into the smoke, retreating into the shadows of the burning city. Daniel dropped the pipe, his chest heaving. Kor leaned on his blade, bleeding but alive. Their eyes met, both filled with exhaustion, both knowing the truth. The silent betrayal was no longer hidden. It had been carved into the battlefield for all to see. And from this moment on, both of them were enemies, not just to their foes, but to their own kind. The night grew colder. The war was far from over, but something new had begun. The city smoldered in ruins, flames painting the sky a deep orange as Daniel and Cor leaned against the shattered wall of a building. Their breaths came in sharp bursts, their bodies aching from battle. The ground around them was littered with rubble, broken weapons, and the silence of retreat. For now the fight was over, but both men knew it was only a pause, not an end. Cor pressed a hand against the wound on his chest, his face pale. Alien blood shimmered faintly in the firelight, thick and dark. Daniel tore a strip of cloth from his own uniform and pressed it against the gash. "Hold still," Daniel muttered, his voice rough but steady. Cor flinched, then gave a weak laugh. Strange. A human mending an enemy. Daniel shook his head. Not an enemy. Not anymore. For a moment the silence between them felt almost human, almost normal, but outside the city cried with smoke and death. The betrayal of Cor had not gone unseen, and Daniel knew the alien armies would not forgive. At the same time, the human command would never accept his choice to protect one of their killers. They were trapped between two worlds. Suddenly, a faint crackle broke the air. Daniel stiffened. His radio, still clipped to his shoulder, sputtered with static before a harsh voice cut through. "Lieutenant Hayes, respond. We saw the blast. Report your status." Daniel froze. His hand hovered over the device.
He could lie.
He could tell them the truth. Either choice was dangerous. "Answer them," Cor whispered, his voice low. "But do not speak of me." Daniel lifted the radio slowly. "This is Hayes. I'm alive. Enemy squad neutralized. Heavy damage to the city. I need extraction." There was a pause on the other end. Then the voice returned, sharp and commanding. "Copy that. Hold your position. Reinforcements inbound." The radio fell silent again, but Daniel's heart raced. Reinforcements meant soldiers. Soldiers who would shoot Cor on sight. Cor's eyes met his. "You must leave me. If your kind sees us together, they will call you traitor." Daniel clenched his fists. He wanted to argue, but deep down he knew Cor was right. Still, something in him refused to let go. "I'm not leaving you to die." "Not after what you just did." Before Cor could reply, a distant rumble shook the street. Daniel looked up. Human armored transports rolled through the smoke, their lights piercing the night. Soldiers spread out quickly, their weapons raised. At first, Daniel felt a rush of relief. He wasn't alone anymore, but that relief faded the moment their eyes found Cor. "Target spotted," a soldier shouted. "Alien hostile, still breathing." Daniel stepped forward. "Wait," but his voice was drowned out by the crack of rifles. Bullets sparked off the rubble around Cor as he staggered back, raising his blade in defense. His body was weak, his wound slowing him, yet he still tried to stand tall. "Stop," Daniel shouted, his voice breaking. He moved between Cor and the firing squad, his arms spread wide. "Don't shoot. He's not like the others." The soldiers froze, stunned by what they saw. Their rifles did not lower, but their eyes widened. The commander of the unit stepped forward, his jaw tight. "Lieutenant Hayes, what in God's name are you doing?" Daniel's throat was dry. He had no plan, no speech, only the truth. "He saved me. He fought against his own kind. If he wanted me dead, I wouldn't be standing here. He's not our enemy." Murmurs rippled through the squad. The commander's glare deepened. "You've lost your mind, Hayes. That thing is an invader. Orders are clear, no survivors." Cor's voice cracked the air, tired but steady. "If you kill me, you kill your only chance to understand why this war began. Your leaders are blind, my people. They are not all loyal to this slaughter." His words hung heavy in the smoke. The soldiers shifted uneasily, their fingers tight on their triggers. The world felt balanced on the edge of a knife. Daniel turned desperately to the commander. "Please, just listen. One chance. If I'm wrong, shoot us both." The silence that followed was unbearable. Then the commander's eyes hardened, and he gave the order Daniel feared most. "Take Hayes into custody. Kill the alien." The soldiers moved at once. Two grabbed Daniel, yanking him back as he struggled, shouting. Cor raised his blade weakly, blood running down his arm. But before the rifles fired, the sky split open with a roar. Alien ships descended, their engines shaking the earth. Beams of light crashed into the street, forcing humans to scatter. The enemy had returned, this time in force. The broken alliance was no longer a secret. It had been exposed in front of both sides, and now neither would forgive. Daniel broke free from the soldier's grip, his eyes locked on Kor. Run! But there was nowhere to run. The battlefield had chosen them both, and their choices had burned every bridge behind them. Smoke swallowed the street again, and the war raged on. The earth shook as alien ships descended, their engines splitting the night with thunder. Blinding beams of light poured into the ruins, scattering soldiers like ants. Human screams mixed with alien war cries, and the fragile line that had held the street together shattered in an instant. Daniel pulled Kor behind a collapsed wall, his pulse racing. The alien warrior staggered, his wound bleeding heavily, yet he clutched his blade as though it were his only anchor. Around them, chaos exploded. Rifle fire, plasma bursts, the crash of collapsing buildings. The human soldiers fought desperately, but their formation broke under the sudden onslaught. Daniel's commander barked orders, but his voice was lost in the storm. Alien troops poured through the smoke, overwhelming everything in their path. Kor's breath was shallow, but his voice carried strength. They've come to silence me, to erase what I've done. They cannot allow a traitor to live. Daniel's jaw tightened. He could see it in the way the alien squad moved, their focus sharper than before. They weren't just here to kill humans. They were hunting Kor. The commander caught sight of Daniel dragging the alien through the rubble and shouted across the din. Hayes, leave it! That thing is the reason we're dying. Daniel ignored him. Bullets hissed past his head, but his grip on Kor's arm never loosened. He didn't know why, didn't know if it was madness or courage, but leaving Kor behind felt impossible. His loyalty was no longer to orders. It was to the choice he had already made. They reached a shadowed alley where the firelight dimmed. Daniel pressed Kor against the wall, trying to steady him. Stay with me. Don't give up. Kor's eyes flickered, glowing faintly even in exhaustion. Why risk everything? Your people will call you traitor. Mine already have. Loyalty to me will cost you everything. Daniel's breath trembled, but his answer came without hesitation. Then let it cost me. Because you're not just an enemy anymore. You're proof that this war doesn't have to be what they tell us it is. Kor stared at him, his chest rising and falling with ragged breaths. For a moment, the fire and screams around them seemed far away. Then heavy footsteps echoed through the alley, alien soldiers. Daniel lifted his rifle, the last rounds loaded. Kor forced himself upright, gripping his blade though his hands shook. Together they faced the advancing squad. The alien leader sneered when he saw Kor. So it's true. You kneel beside prey. You shame us all. But don't worry, traitor. Your end will be remembered as an example. Kor's voice was raw, but it cut through the air like steel. If my death plants doubt in even one heart, then I will not die in vain. The squad rushed forward. Daniel fired, his shots cracking through the smoke. Kor met them head-on, his blade sparking against theirs. Pain seared his body with every movement, but his strikes were fierce, filled with defiance. For a few moments, they held their ground. Human and alien, fighting side by side against the tide. But numbers told the truth. Daniel's rifle clicked empty. Kor stumbled, his strength failing. The enemy pressed harder. Then a voice broke through the battle. The human commander, battered and furious, stormed into the alley with a squad of soldiers. They opened fire, driving the aliens back in a storm of bullets. The surviving enemy vanished into the smoke, retreating into the chaos of the city. Daniel's chest heaved. Relief washed over him, but it died the moment he saw the commander's face. His eyes were filled not with gratitude but with cold fury. You've lost your mind, Hayes, the commander growled. I saw what you did. Protecting that thing, fighting beside it, Daniel stepped forward. He's not like the others. He saved my life. He turned on his own people. Can't you see that means something? The commander raised his pistol, aiming it straight at Kor. All I see is a monster who tricked you. Loyalty to him will cost you your career, your freedom, maybe even your life. Step aside, Kor's breathing slowed. His gaze met Daniel's, heavy with acceptance. Let him. Your kind will never understand. Better you live than burn with me. Daniel's mind screamed with conflict. His commander's orders echoed in his ears. But so did Kor's voice, his tears, his choice. Loyalty had become a chain, binding him between two worlds. To obey meant betraying what he believed in. To defy meant betraying his own people. Slowly, Daniel moved. He stepped in front of Kor, his chest directly in the line of the pistol. His eyes locked on the commander's. If you shoot him, Daniel said, his voice steady despite the storm inside him, you'll have to shoot me too. The alley fell silent. The soldiers around them shifted uneasily, their fingers twitching on their rifles. The commander's glare burned with rage, but his hand hesitated. The weight of Daniel's words hung in the smoke like a blade waiting to fall. And in that silence, Daniel knew the truth. Loyalty was never free. Every choice demanded a price, and his was only beginning. The commander's pistol stayed fixed on Daniel, its dark barrel gleaming in the firelight. Smoke curled around them, the sound of distant gunfire echoing across the ruined city. Daniel stood tall in front of Kor, his chest rising and falling with steady defiance. His words still hung in the air. "You'll have to shoot me, too." For a long moment, no one moved. The soldiers behind the commander shifted uneasily, torn between orders and the sight before them. Kor leaned heavily against the wall, his blade drooping in his hand, his strength fading but his eyes bright with something deeper. Hope. The commander's jaw tightened. "You've already betrayed us, Hayes. Do you think they'll forgive this? Do you think I will?" His finger hovered on the trigger. Daniel's voice was low but unyielding. "You taught me once that loyalty means protecting what's right no matter the cost. I'm only doing what you told me." The commander's eyes narrowed, but he didn't fire. Instead, he spat on the ground. "You've chosen your grave." He lowered the pistol, but his glare promised that this was not over. Turning sharply, he barked orders. "Fall back. Enemy reinforcements are inbound. We'll regroup at the north sector." The soldiers obeyed, though many cast wary glances at Daniel as they passed. Soon the alley was empty, save for the two who no longer belonged to either side. Daniel turned to Kor, who was breathing hard, his body trembling. "We can't stay here. They'll be back." Kor's lips curved into a tired smile. "You risked your life for me. Against your own commander. That cannot be undone. From now on, every human will see you as traitor. Every alien will see me as betrayer. We stand alone." Daniel helped him to his feet, their movements slow through the rubble. "Then we make our stand together." They moved through the broken streets, the fires burning higher with every step. Above, alien ships circled like vultures, raining destruction across the city. Daniel's thoughts raced. He knew the war would not pause for them. Both sides were tightening their grip, and soon there would be no place left to hide. By the time they reached the central plaza, the city looked like a graveyard. Statues lay toppled, streets torn apart, and the cries of civilians echoed in the distance. It was here that they saw the truth of the battle. Hundreds of humans fought desperately against alien waves, their defenses collapsing. Kor's hand tightened around his blade. His eyes glistened with something raw, shame, anger, and resolve. "They will never stop. They will burn this world to ash, all because they fear your spirit. Humans refuse to kneel, and that terrifies them." Daniel felt the same fire inside him. He had no orders now, no commander to follow. Only the moment, only survival. He raised his weapon and looked at Kor. "Then we don't kneel either. If this is where it ends, we fight to the last breath." The alien warrior straightened despite his wounds. His voice carried a weight that silenced the chaos around them. "Then this will be our last stand." The alien army surged into the plaza, their numbers endless, their weapons blazing. Humans fell back, their lines broken. But in the center of the storm, Daniel and Kor stood side by side. The first wave struck. Daniel fired until his rifle burned his hands. Kor's blade sang through the smoke, cutting down foes with desperate fury. They fought like a single force, their movements raw but synchronized, bound not by orders but by trust. Explosions shook the ground. Daniel dove behind debris, dragging Kor with him, before returning fire. Kor collapsed to one knee, blood dripping freely, yet he rose again, refusing to fall. Their strength was fading, but neither gave up. Human soldiers began to notice. In the midst of despair, eyes turned toward the human and alien fighting together. Some shouted, some faltered, but many found their courage again. They rallied, pushing back harder than before, unwilling to be outdone by the strange alliance. Kor roared as he cut down another attacker, his voice echoing across the plaza. Daniel shouted too, their cries merging into one defiant sound. For a heartbeat, it felt as if they could turn the tide, as if loyalty and betrayal no longer mattered, only the fight. But the enemy did not stop. More ships descended, more warriors poured into the streets. The human defense line crumbled and the plaza became a slaughter. Daniel's rifle clicked empty. He hurled it aside, grabbing a fallen weapon. Kor stumbled, his body finally failing, yet he still struck down another foe. Their breaths came ragged, their vision blurred. The last stand was living up to its name. In the chaos, Daniel caught sight of something. A massive alien warship descending toward the plaza, its shadow swallowing the fires below. Its weapons glowed, ready to unleash a blast that would erase everything. He grabbed Kor's arm, his voice desperate. If that ship fires, the city is gone. Kor looked up, his expression fierce despite the blood on his face. Then we take it down. Or we die trying. Their eyes met, human and alien, bound by the same fire. This was no longer about loyalty, no longer about orders. It was about standing when no one else would. It was about defiance, about hope, about making the last breath mean something. Together, they rose once more, facing the endless storm as the warship's light grew brighter. The last stand had begun. The warship's shadow consumed the plaza, its massive frame blotting out the burning sky. Its weapons pulsed with deadly light, ready to erase the city in a single strike. The air hummed with unbearable tension, as if the world itself held its breath. Daniel and Kor stood together amid the wreckage, their bodies broken, but their spirits unyielding. Around them, soldiers, human and alien alike, paused in fear of the ship's power. It no longer mattered who was friend or foe. They were all beneath the crushing gaze of the giant above. Daniel's chest burned with exhaustion, yet his eyes were sharp, locked on the warship. If that cannon fires, it's over. Kor's grip tightened on his blade, though his hands trembled. Then we must stop it. Not for me, not for you, but for everyone who cannot stand here today. Daniel's mind raced. The warship was untouchable from the ground. But there, he saw it, a breach in the armor exposed from the earlier barrage. It was faint, small, but it was a chance. He looked at Kor. If we reach that ship, we can end this. Kor followed his gaze, then nodded. His jaw set with grim determination. A final dawn. Whether for life or death, together they ran. Through smoke and fire, dodging blasts that tore the earth apart, they pushed forward. Human soldiers stared in shock, some even covering their retreat, as though something in that reckless charge sparked their own courage. The alien forces tried to stop them, but Daniel fired with desperate precision, cutting down enemies one after another. Kor's blade cleaved through the rest, his movements fierce despite the blood pouring from his wounds. Every step was agony, but neither faltered. At last they reached the base of the warship as its engines thundered above. A ramp lowered, guarded by alien elites. Their eyes blazed with fury at the sight of Kor, the betrayer, and the human beside him. The battle was brutal. Daniel's rifle burned through its last magazine. Kor fought with the strength of a dying storm, every strike echoing defiance. When the last elite fell, Kor dropped to one knee, barely able to rise. Daniel grabbed his arm and pulled him forward. Not yet. Not until it's done. They stumbled into the belly of the warship. Sirens wailed. Lights flashed red. The corridors shook as the weapon systems charged for the final blast. Daniel spotted the control core, a glowing pillar pulsing like a heart of fire. He knew what had to be done. If they destroyed it, the warship would fall, but so would they. He turned to Kor. We won't survive this. Kor's lips curved into a faint, weary smile. Then let our deaths mean more than our lives ever could. A human and an alien, not enemies, but brothers at the end. Their eyes met, two warriors from opposite worlds, bound by choice, by sacrifice, by something greater than war. Daniel's hand gripped the detonator from his pack. His thumb hovered over the switch. Outside, the cannon's glow reached its peak. The city below braced for annihilation. Daniel pressed the trigger. The core erupted in a blaze of white light. The warship convulsed, its engines screaming as fire consumed its heart. Shockwaves ripped through the vessel, tearing it apart from within. From the plaza below, soldiers watched in awe as the monstrous ship faltered in the sky. Its lights flickered, its hull cracked, and then in a deafening roar it collapsed in a storm of fire. The blast lit the night brighter than the sun, casting shadows long and deep across the ruined city. When the light faded, silence fell. The warship was gone. The plaza lay in ruin, but the cannon never fired. The city still stood. Among the survivors, whispers spread. They spoke of the human soldier and the alien warrior who had charged the impossible together. Enemies turned brothers, betrayers turned saviors. Their names were not shouted in victory, they were whispered in reverence. Daniel and Kor never emerged from the flames. But their final stand had lit a dawn brighter than any sun. For the first time, humans and aliens alike looked at one another and wondered if peace was possible. If the war could end. On the horizon the fires softened, giving way to the faintest glow of morning. The final dawn had come of something new, born from sacrifice, from loyalty, from the courage of two souls who chose mercy over hate. And though the world was scarred, it would never forget the human who stayed behind, and the alien who cried for mercy.